Welcome to Mighty Married Moms. Join us at our kitchen table twice a week as the Mighty Married Moms, Debbie, Linda, Wendy,
invite spectacular guests to weigh in on staying sexy, vibrant, and healthy,
building marriages with soul-satisfying connection, raising happy, healthy, successful kids. Conversations with Mighty Married Moms will bring you closer to the life you really want.
Episode 77.
Hi, this is Wendy Williams, and marriage happiness is way possible. ConnectAgain.org is very happy to sponsor Mighty Married Moms. We are partners in bringing you closer to the life you really want. Visit us today for marriage boosts at ConnectAgain.org.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mighty Married Moms. Today, we are really excited to be able to introduce you to Amy Ahlers. She has been a certified life coach for over 15 years and is the CEO of Wake Up Call Coaching and co-founder of Inner Mean Girl Reform School and Visionary Ignition Switch. I love that. That's a mouthful.
Yeah.
Amy's been featured on lots of TV and radio shows and leads virtual and in-person retreats for women around the world so they cultivate the courage to follow their inner wisdom, which we're going to get into in just a few minutes. Her new best-selling book, which she co-authored with Christine Arroyo, I'll let you correct my pronunciation.
That was perfect.
Reform Your Inner Mean Girl, 7 Steps to Stop Bullying Yourself and Start Loving Yourself, is based on the revolutionary program which has helped over 30,000 women create more self-love and self-compassion. Her website, that website is at innermeangirl.com. And when not working, you'll find her with the love of her life and husband, Rob, chasing after their firecracker daughters, Annabella and Evie Rose. Hey, it's great to have you with us, Amy. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted. I love getting a little virtual circle of women together.
Right?
You and all of these listeners. I mean, it's awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, this is great. We love this too. It's our kitchen table conversations, which women love to have, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Why don't you give us a little bit of background about where you started from and how you ended up doing what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. Well, I've been coaching, as you mentioned in my intro there, I've been coaching for about 15 years now. And I came into the world of life coaching because I ended up hiring a coach because my life was feeling just not like the life I wanted it to be. And so I kept running into this life coach in Los Angeles. This was many years ago. I literally ran into her 3 times in like a 1-month period, which in Los Angeles is really rare because it's such a big city. Yeah. And I'm like, clearly I've been guided to work with you. What is this life coaching thing? I have no idea. And I ended up hiring her as my coach. And then eventually she ended up mentoring me into coaching. And when I went to my first coach training over at the Coaches Training Institute and sat in that room and heard and understood what life coaching was about, I just had that light bulb. I found my calling. This is it. This is what I was born to do. Great. My mom always still thinks it's very funny that I make a living talking to people on the phone because she says as a teenager, that's all I did. So
that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So it's changed my life. I love working with people and hearing about their dreams and their desires. And over the course of the years of working with all sorts of different people from, lawyers to struggling artists to stay-at-home moms to you name it. I realized this theme that no matter what the external circumstances were, on the inside, people were beating themselves up. And it drove me nuts. I mean, I'd be sitting across or talking to this incredible human being, seeing their beauty and their grace and their magnificence, and they would be saying things to themselves like, well, I'm just not enough, or I'm unlovable, or I'm damaged goods, or I'm a failure and I'm failing. And I just felt this, I'm just getting chills talking about it. I just felt such a calling in my heart to say enough with us beating ourselves up. And that really led me to writing my first book, Big Fat Lies Women Tell Themselves, and led me into this crazy world of, letting people know about you and sharing your mission online. And it's just really mushroomed from there. And I just feel so honored to be able to work with so many people around the world to really help them listen to their inner wisdom and live an inner wisdom-led life.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. What is it about, women in particular, but I'm sure plenty of men do the same thing. I know men do the same thing. Why do we tell ourselves these negative stories? What have you come to on that one?
Yeah, well, it really is part of the human experience. I'm also a mom, as you mentioned. I have 2 daughters, Annabella and Evie Rose. And I noticed in my own daughter that at around age 6 or 7 is when basically that inner critic forms in our brain. It's actually part of the human psyche. It's part of the development of the brain. Up until that time, we actually are just present. You know, I look at my youngest daughter, Evie Rose, who's a year and a half. She doesn't have an inner critic telling her she's a loser when she falls down, when she was trying to walk, right? She's just like, I'm here, world, wow, you know. But then, you know, in the development of our brains, we start to really develop that consciousness around age 6 or 7. And with, you know, the beauty of the consciousness is we become thinkers. We start really understanding who we are and the world, and we are able to kind of go into those higher forms of thinking. But one of the backlashes is then we have this voice in our head that criticizes us, and our brains actually have a negativity bias. This is proven, and that was really for a protection. You know, when you think about many years ago, it was really important to know which berry was the one that was poison. Or it was really important for us to kick into high gear to not get eaten by the lions and the bears. But now that negativity bias in our modern day world really impacts our self-love, our self-compassion, and self-esteem. So it's a normal thing. Everyone has one, even Oprah. She talks about it. Even Sheryl Sandberg talks about it. I mean, all of these women that supposedly have it all, they talk about it too. So it's part of just the natural evolution of our psyches. And then of course I could talk even more about women in particular and why it impacts us even more deeply than it impacts men. We can talk about that too if you want to. It's pretty fascinating.
I do want to talk about that.
Yeah, I do.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you know, it's so interesting because when you think about it as women, and I know that all three of you know this and probably teach this in your work, you know, we are just bombarded from the day that we are born with all of these images of women that are not real. They're photoshopped, they're airbrushed. We have all this pressure put on us to look perfect, to be perfect. And if you look at what's happened over the last 100 years with feminism and all of this amazing things that we've been able to do, we have more choices than we've ever had. But there's this incredible report called The Paradox of Declining Female Happiness. And it really shows in a study, a scientific study, how since the 1970s alone, all of these external things have really changed so that we have more choice. We're getting paid more. We're inching our way up towards being, you know, making equivalent salaries for men. But on the internal, it's actually declined. Our happiness has actually declined.
Interesting.
What's up with that? It's so fascinating.
Yeah, it's so fascinating.
I'm gonna have to check out that report.
Do
Do you think my gut reaction to that is that we're being pushed into realms that really aren't synchronous or integrated well within the way our minds and our hearts are? And it's hard for me to say that because I grew up in these times. I'm 57 years old. I grew up in the days where the word was women need a man like a fish needs a bicycle.
Right.
You know, that we can be all within our very own selves. We can have it all. And that hasn't borne out my own experience. And I actually really like what men bring to the table in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And that my dad, my husband, you know, somewhat of my stepsons. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think that's so brilliant. I feel like for so long we kept thinking that if we just change the external things in our life, if we just had the right to vote, if we just were able to do things besides being teachers and nurses, that then we'd be happy. But the truth is that happiness is not an external job. It's actually an internal job. And so now we're faced with the reality of, oh, you know what? These external things are in place and I'm still not feeling happy. What's up with that? And so I feel like now what we're doing as a collective is we're looking internally to tell the truth about what personally matters to us and what's really going to increase our own happiness and our peace. And part of that is having partnership. Part of that is saying, oh, actually, it is different for women when they have babies. It's different. It's a different experience for a woman to become a mom than it is for a man to become a father. It's different. Both are absolutely valuable and equal, but it's different. And so for women to be forced to go back to work 6 weeks after giving birth to a baby is criminal. That is, I mean, it's just insane. So it's like all these things were put on our plate as all these rights were given to us and all these opportunities, but nothing fell off our plate. And I don't know, I adore my husband. He's my best friend. We've been together 15 years. We've been married 11 years. He is a highly evolved man. He's incredibly in touch with his feminine side. And guess what? He does dishes, he changes diapers, he does all that stuff. But guess what? I still do most of the household management while running a company and being a mom to 2 girls, right? There's just certain things that fall on women's plates naturally. We're better at it than men.
Right.
So it's like, but where are we supposed to find all the time to do all these things?
Right.
Yes. Right. And where do we find it's become, the more that we've been doing this podcast, the more really highly evolved, intelligent women that we're talking to, and we've talked to a few men too, but people are standing up saying, yep, there's differences. Yep. Yeah. It's okay. And yep, there's power there, and not to feel disempowered and anymore to say, yeah, I'm better at managing the household tasks. I said it. It's all right. The world didn't fall apart.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I think it's also about those personal agreements in your marriage and those personal agreements with your workplace and even more important, the agreements that you're making with yourself. Because, I really believe that's one of the big building blocks of self-esteem and self-love is keeping the promises that you make to yourself. So it's like, saying something like, and Linda, you, I'm sure that you know all about this. It's like saying something like, I'm going to work out 5 times this week, when for the last 2 years you've worked out once.
Right.
Set yourself up, right?
Yeah.
You set yourself up with this unrealistic expectation on yourself. And then that just chinks away at your self-love and self-esteem, because there you are, you work out once, and instead of celebrating, you just are beating yourself up and beating yourself down for not doing it 5 days that week. And so really paying attention to those conscious and even unconscious agreements that you're making with yourself, so that you're not disappointed all the time in yourself.
Right.
I like that. The unconscious agreements that we make with ourselves.
Yeah,
I do too.
And holding ourselves to such a strict standard.
Yeah.
One of the things, one of the things that I've discovered in talking with women that I'm, coaching, peer-to-peer coaching and so forth, is when they're in that groove of self-hatred or beating themselves up, I ask them to shift and say, what if you knew that this is what your daughter was saying to herself? What if you knew that this is what your aunt or your best friend was saying? Would you tolerate for 1 minute somebody calling your daughter a jerk?
Right.
No. You would say, this girl's beautiful. She's got it going on. She's awesome. So I ask all of them to kind of pull up that mirror and say, why don't you try talking to yourself like you would want somebody to talk to your daughter?
Beautiful. That's exactly it. I mean, at Inner Mean Girl Reform School, you are preaching exactly what we teach.
Mean Girl Reform School.
Yeah, it really is about, what's that?
I love Mean Girl Reform School.
I know, right? Well, because we talk so much in our society about the mean girls in the hallways of junior high and the mean girls, or by the water cooler in the conference room at work. But really the meanest one of all is that inner mean girl. And when I look at women that are being outer mean girls, because they exist, absolutely. But just like that bully on the playground, there's something going on at home. There's something going on with them. And so it really is something going on at home in here.
Right.
I can assure you that any woman that is being, criticizing you, belittling you, cutting you down, I can only imagine what is going on behind the scenes in her own mind, of how she treats herself. So as we become more loving and compassionate with ourselves, we can extend that to people in our life as well. And that is so key, is really learning, what are those voices in our head? We teach, that there's the voice of the inner mean girl, and she can be really tricky and sneaky, because not all inner mean girls are overtly mean. Some of them are, show up. We have these 13 archetypes at Inner Mean Girl Reform School that we've discovered in the last 5 years of doing this work. And so there's the archetype like the comparison queen. She compares your worst to everyone else's best. And there's, the achievement junkie that wants you to achieve and achieve and achieve. She's just a junkie about it, never lets you stop and celebrate. But then there's also the ones that are a little sneakier, like the good girl archetype. who wants you to be good and do what you're supposed to do and people please everyone else. And she has you saying yes when you really need to say no. She has you saying, oh, of course I can do that for you. And then you're exhausted and you have nothing left for yourself. Or there's the archetype of the overly optimistic partying cheerleader. I have this one. She's really tricky because she cheerleads you right off a cliff. She has you ignore those red flags in your life that are saying, actually, no, this isn't right for you, or don't go this way, or this person isn't right. She's just like, no, everything's going to be fine. And boom, all of a sudden you find yourself off a cliff and you're like, what the hell happened here? So there's all these different archetypes of inner mean girls, and really getting to know what kind of inner mean girl you have is really powerful for people.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's brilliant.
So do you have any tips for our show today? Like, are there a few basic things that we can identify? I mean, I think I have all those mean girls living inside of me. Certainly the more tricky ones for me. So it has definitely been a battle my whole life, is to identify that and actually even recognize it. Because it's so subtle. And now I'm just, at 51, I'm starting to really recognize those mean girls inside of me. So, so for other people who don't have to wait as long as I have, maybe, are there
what
some,
can we do that will solve this problem? Right?
Yeah.
And how can we
Exactly. Well, the first step at Inner Mean Girl Reform School, and also in our book, Reform Your Inner Mean Girl, is really to identify that archetype and to really, we like to say it's really about doing an investigation on your inner mean girl, on those big fat lies that she's saying to you. So I would invite all of your listeners here to actually go ahead and bring into their mind and their heart an area where they're beating themselves up, whether it's about how their body looks or what their bank account balance is or what's going on in their marriage to their husband or their wife. Whatever area just popped into your mind. I know everyone has one. I know that I do. And just actually make a list of the top 10 things that you're saying to yourself about this. Put it down on paper. Write it out. And just allow yourself to hear how hard you're being on yourself. I call this the Big Fat Lies playlist. So allowing yourself to really get that down on paper, because a couple things will happen when you do this. First, you'll recognize how hard you're being on yourself. Like sometimes it's just like that subconscious thing of, like it comes into your mind. It's like that automatic negative thought of, oh, you're a loser, or you're too fat, thin, short, tall, whatever it is for you. And to actually write it down on a piece of paper is really powerful and brings out that awareness for you. And very powerful. And then what we actually have women do at Inner Mean Girl Reform School is we have them draw their inner mean girl. Draw a picture of her, because here's the secret. You're not your inner mean girl. You actually don't think those things about yourself. There is that voice of truth inside of you. We call it the inner wisdom. She's the voice of truth. So really separating out and personifying that inner mean girl can be revolutionary. I mean, we have actually in our book, here, I'll show you. In our book, we have a little Inner Mean Girl Hall of Fame in the back. And actually my daughter, Bella, even drew a picture of her inner mean girl. But here's some of the pictures from some of our students.
Oh, wow.
Inner mean girls. So we have Stealth Stella and Concrete Connie. We have some really fun pictures. There are those of you that are watching on the video. Monstrous Minley is my daughter's right here.
These are great.
So this is really fun. It brings out your creativity. It engages your right brain, and it just lets you have some humor about it.
Right.
We are huge believers in play and humor and having fun, because so often we go into these dark parts of ourselves and are like, oh my gosh, the shadow work, and oh my gosh, it's so, but we want to have fun as we do this transformation process.
Right. Tony Robbins is a big advocate of having fun as you're throwing up all over the stage.
Yes.
Not that I've been to his show in person, but I've watched 917 YouTube videos. Another show. But the humor piece is very important. I agree with you.
Important. Very important.
Right. Yeah.
So what is the wake up call 3-step process? Is
Yes.
that what you were just describing?
Yes. So this is a process that I've developed over the last 15 years. It is super duper duper simple. and incredibly powerful. And I love the simplicity of it because it allows you to take it in your pocket like a little self-love tic-tac, as my partner Christine likes to say, that you can just kind of pop into your mouth at any moment when you're feeling those negative thoughts. And so this is how it works. The first step, and this can be a little bit counterintuitive, you find any sort of negative emotion happening in your life, whether it's, you're feeling a little frustrated, or you are incredibly depressed, or you are absolutely enraged. It doesn't matter where you are on that scale.
Okay.
The minute that there's a negative emotion, your inner mean girl is right there with a megaphone. So the first step is to actually ask, what is my inner mean girl saying? And those of you listening right now, you can even write this down. You can say it out loud and just let your inner mean girl rant. Turn up the volume on your inner mean girl. Let her be center stage, because, you've heard the expression, what we resist persists. And so often we just resist. We want to shove it away. We want to put it to the side. But no, it's about really amping it up, letting her rant, just like you would with your 2-year-old if she's having a tantrum. If you try to shut that, shut it down, it just gets bigger and bigger. So just hold space for that inner mean girl, just like you would your baby. Let her rant.
Okay.
And then when your inner mean girl's done, and we know that with our kids too, right? There's a point when that exhaustion, when they're just complete with that tantrum. Then this is step 2. You close your eyes. And if you're not driving, if it's safe to do so, close your eyes right now. Take a deep breath. Just ask, what does my inner wisdom know? What does my inner wisdom know? And allow that voice of truth to come over you. Allow that voice of truth to speak up. And what I've found over the years, I've asked this question thousands of times, is that we are so wise. It's just a matter of getting quiet and taking that breath and tuning in to hear that inner wisdom. And just allow your inner wisdom to respond.
It's very powerful.
Just out loud. You can write that down on a piece of paper, whatever works for you. And the third step, I'll just open my eyes here. The third step is a neuro-linguistic that allows you to really lock in that inner wisdom truth and allows you to start building new neural pathways in your brain to connect to a physical moment. I just kind of tap lightly on my heart, whatever works for you, and then to repeat back out loud that inner wisdom. So it might be, everything's going to be okay, or sweetheart, you're doing the best you can. Whatever it is, just lock it in with that physical movement. So again, step 1, what is my inner mean girl saying? Let your inner mean girl rant. Step 2, close your eyes, take a deep breath. What does my inner wisdom know?
Yep.
And then step 3 is to go ahead and repeat back your inner wisdom's truth while doing some small movement, some gesture. And what I've found, and what my students and clients have found, is that after a while, that special movement you can just do that. You're in a meeting.
Go right to, yeah.
Suddenly you're in a meeting and you feel your inner mean girl starting to, you're under inner mean girl attack. You can just do that physical gesture, and it's that sense memory in your body of bringing in and infusing your body with that sense of peace and knowingness and truth.
Yeah, it's anchoring.
Love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you recommend a certain amount of, should you do that twice a month, or is there anything like
prescription?
Yeah, I have clients that do this every day as part of their morning practice. They just do that. I have other people that use it the minute they feel any sort of negative emotion. That's what I do personally.
Yeah.
I find I love to run and go on hikes. And I find that for whatever reason at the beginning of my hikes or my runs, I feel my inner mean girl coming up trying to do the to-do list, or one of the archetypes is the doing addict. She's addicted to doing. She wants me to be very productive on this run. And so I'll actually just be like, what is my inner mean girl saying? And then just let her rant. And then I'll literally stop on my run, close my eyes on the trail, take a few deep breaths and connect into my inner wisdom and invite her to come along with me for the run. So I recommend doing it as often as you can. And definitely the minute that you find a negative emotion showing up, to just try it and see what happens. Incredible results have been reported about it.
Yeah.
Could you remind me on step 3? It's tap, some sort of a physical gesture of self-soothing, would you say?
It can be whatever comes to you. Just let your inner wisdom guide you to whatever movement. I mean, I tap on my heart. Some people just put their hand on their heart. I have another client who does this little wave with her hand. Yeah. That was what she was guided to do. So it's whatever works for you. It can be as small or as big as you want. Really the point is to get into our body. Mm-hmm. Because we live so often from the neck up, and that's where our inner mean girl lives. She loves to do the spinning thoughts in our head. Right. And so our bodies are so powerful. And so just breathing in and remind I have a physical body here. Imagine that. Yeah. It's really just about getting in there and anchoring it in and locking it in.
Got it.
That's great. That's great.
That's a really helpful tool. Totally helpful tool. Yeah. It reminds me, of emotional freedom technique, the tapping piece.
Oh, love it.
I know. It's really good. And it talks about giving voice to that. I was working with a woman on this past Monday, and we're using EFT, and so she said, can I make an observation to you? She asked permission. I said, yes, go ahead. Every time she says something like that, I know that I'm going to be like, whoa. I'm naked here in front of her, and she did a good job. So she did a good job, and she said, you have a visionary and a person that just sees amazing possibilities ahead of you, and then you have another really responsible person who says, well, that's ridiculous. That's not going to work. You got to be careful. And she didn't use the word about the amygdala is trying to keep me from hurting myself.
That's what it is.
So I get that, but for whatever reason in my head, that negative voice seems very, very authentic and more real than the woo-woo side of the things. So I said, yes, you're right. Both of those voices are inside of me. Which one are we going to kill off? And she said, she did what you just did. She laughed. She said, neither one. They both need to help you out, but they both need some time to speak. And the other one keeps trying to shut the other one up.
Right.
So need to just give them their own space to be able to talk in freedom and safety and get what they need to say out.
Yes.
And then your wisdom can come in and determine which way to go. But
that's beautiful. One of the archetypes is rational Ruth, who only relies. I don't know. I might have outed you, Wendy. I don't know. Maybe you have.
I might have.
But yeah, I mean, it is like she relies only on rational thought. If it's not scientifically proven, it's nonsense. And she can really be the one that tries to kill off that intuition. And one of the biggest questions that we get at Intermingle Reform School, and when I'm speaking in front of groups, whether at Google or at a women's retreat or whatever it is how do I tell the difference between the voices? How do I know which one is my inner wisdom and which one is my inner mean girl? And the answer is to go to your body. And the answer is to really, our bodies are brilliant. And you can start really identifying, when that voice is speaking, how does it feel in my body? Because when our inner wisdom is speaking, we will have this sense of groundedness. We will have this sense of, I call it like that kerplunk, like that inner kerplunk. And it's so fascinating because, people think, our inner wisdom is always kind to us and nice to us and is always just going to be like, you're beautiful, you're amazing. That inner wisdom is the voice of truth. So she will also deliver hard truths to us, but she will do it from a place of love. And I was thinking about a time in my life when I was living with my boyfriend at the time, and I knew it was not the right relationship. But we were living together and we had incredible love for one another. And my inner mean girl was beating me up, being like, you're such a loser. You need to leave him. What's your problem? Get out of this relationship. And I couldn't do it. I was just like, I can't do it. And then finally, when I was able to get in touch with my inner wisdom gave me the same message. But she was like, sweetheart, it's time to leave this relationship. It isn't right. It's time to set him free, and it's time to set yourself free. And then it wasn't until I could really connect in with that voice of truth and wisdom and this place of absolute love, that's when I was able to say, I need to get out of this relationship. And we both parted, and he actually ended up coming to my wedding and blessing me at my wedding. I mean, it ended our relationship so beautifully because it came from that space of love instead of from that space of failure or shame or blame or any of that junk.
Fear.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been amazing. I kind of expected that it would be because I was really looking forward to having this conversation. And I hate to say it, but we are out of time.
Oh,
goodness.
Yeah.
Will you come back again?
Absolutely. I would love to. Absolutely.
I know. I think we must beat ourselves up much too much. This is great, Amy. Thank you so much. What I would love for you to do is be able to share with our listeners and viewers where they can find you again, anything that you want to share. Tell them what they should buy. Tell us about your books.
Current projects.
Yeah.
Current project.
Thank you so much. Well, you can go to my site, wakeupcallcoach.com, and you'll find a free Wake Up Your Inner Wisdom kit that has meditations, interviews, talks more about the 3-step process that we talked about today. And I'd love to gift that to all of your listeners.
Perfect.
And we also have the Inner Mean Girl quiz, which is a free quiz that you can take to actually allow you to understand which of the 13 archetypes are running the show behind. Mm-hmm. So you take this quiz at innermeangirlquiz.com, and you go to innermeangirlquiz.com and you answer some questions, and then we'll send you an archetype report that shows you which of the archetypes are most present in your life right now. And with each archetype, there's a corresponding instant deactivator tool so that you can start deactivating that inner mean girl in your life.
I love that. That's
so
great.
Those are a couple things. And on my site, you'll also find both of my books, both Big Fat Lies Women Tell Themselves and Reform Your Inner Mean Girl. Would absolutely be honored to have any of your listeners pick up a copy of one or both of the books and just join my community. Just absolutely would be honored. And thank you so much for having me on the show.
This
Great.
Thank you so much. It's really been an honor for us.
Yeah. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in again to Mighty Married Moms. I'm Debbie Owen.
Wendy Williams.
Linda Tighe.
And we are glad that you could be with us today. I hope you picked up some fabulous information from our guest, Amy Ahlers. And we would ask that you please share this with your community, your family, your friends, and please go to iTunes and give us a rating and a review. That will help share the news of this show, and we would love to have you do that. So until next time, this is Mighty Married Moms. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Mighty Married Moms. Tune in twice a week on Mondays and Thursdays to meet fascinating and inspiring guests who will help you create the life you've always wanted.
You can find these episodes and special gifts just for you at mightymarriedmoms.com, as well as a link to our Facebook community,
where we continue the conversation around the kitchen table. Please also help share the love by leaving a review on iTunes. We'll see you next time.